You know what? A coal miner's job is one of the toughest there is. It's like an old fella told me one time, once a miner, always a miner. If you work in the mines, the coal gets in your blood. That's according to me and according to this song.
The Militant Miner. On March 21, 1973, north of Wakefield at Lofthouse Colliery, a group of 30 miners, in all that included my father Donald Shaw, working on the night shift, in the dirty and dangerous depths of South 9B seam when it suddenly flooded. They had cut into an abandoned shaft, releasing millions of gallons of trapped stagnant water, which 7 men lost their life that day. 6 men still remain in the mine. I remember this as I was working at Burton's Biscuits in Normanton on the night shift with my brother. Our father always picked us up to bring us home. This particular morning, he was very late, and me and my brother was worried sick. Our dad usually came to pick us up at about 7 a.m., but did not turn up till 9:30. Then we knew something had happened. You could tell by my dad's face. He had tears in his eyes. As we were going home, he told us all about it. Thank God our dad was one that got out there alive and well. But to all that didn't, rest in peace, old miner comrades and brave souls. A year after the tragic incident, my dad asked me if I wanted a job down in the pit working with him, which I was going to decline at first, but then I thought to myself that I'm on regular nights, and just failed my heavy goods test. Don't forget they had no power steering then. It was like steering a Sherman tank then, so thought I should give it a try. So I said yes. It was a 3-shift system, so I would not be on permanent nights. When I first started, I had to go on a training course for 2 weeks. Allerton by Water was showing me how to do things down pit. Life working down in the pits was hard and dangerous, but my best years was working down there. When you work down there with all the other miners, you come to know that it's full of many amazing and hard-working people. I remember all the great times with them, from the initiation prank to going out with my fellow miners to the pubs after work and talking for hours and drinking together. It was like they all became family in some ways. We all went through the good and the bad times that comes with being a miner. When I was working in Lofthouse, I was assigned once to work on the section where the incident had happened, and I thought I heard a sound coming from where the incident happened, but that part was sealed off. Therefore it wasn't like someone could be working there, and I am not someone who scares easily, but I guess knowing what happened down there, it just made me feel uneasy, so made sure not to work in that section anymore. Here is a little info on Lofthouse. The Lofthouse Colliery was in the north area of the National Coal Board and was about 2 miles to the north of Wakefield on the western fringe of the workable coal field. Production began at the colliery in 1877, and by 1973 the colliery produced 500 tons of saleable coal per week and employed 837 men below ground and 207 at the surface. The colliery closed in 1981. There were 4 shafts. The A was the downcast and was 18 feet 6 inches in diameter, and the B, the upcast, was 15 feet in diameter, were at Lofthouse in the Silkstone, which was a downcast, and the Beeston, which was upcast of 14 feet in diameter, were at Renthorpe, about 1 3/4 miles to the south. The Silkstone shaft had winding equipment, but there were no winding facilities at the Beeston shaft. At the top of the V shaft there were 3 Aerex fans in parallel, which extracted 180,000 cubic feet of air per minute at 7 inches water gauge. A Keith Blackman centrifugal fan extracted 60,000 cubic feet per minute at 3.2 inches water gauge at the Beeston shaft at Renthorpe. The coal was won from long wall advance and mechanized faces, and the seams that were worked in descending order were the flocked and thin, which had 3 working faces, the 11 yards with 1 working face, and the Beeston, which had 2 working faces. Development was taking place in the blocking bed seam, which lay between the 11 yards and the Beeston seams. The main intake at the Lofthouse A and B shafts was from the old Haymore workings and was between 160 and 230 gallons per minute depending on the season. At the Renthorpe shafts there was a well shaft 63 feet deep, from which 33 to 35 gallons of water per minute were pumped. The make of water in the main shafts at Renthorpe was only 15 gallons per minute pumped from the Silkstone pit bottom. The South 9B district was in the Flockton Thin Seam to the west of the South Four-Loader Gate, and the face was 5,600 yards from the Lofthouse pit bottom. The Flockton Seam was 34 inches thick, which included a dirt band 3 inches thick. The roof was of a medium grey shaly mudstone, and the floor was also of mudstone. The face lay about 220 yards below the surface, and 2 seams were worked above it 120 to 130 years before. They were the Gawthorpe, Warren House, at a depth of 50 yards, and the Top Haymore at 120 yards. The Silkstone Seam was about 80 yards below the Flockton Thin and was worked around 1914. For health and safety reasons, Lofthouse shut down, so then I was drafted to Prince of Wales Colliery, Pontefract. The Prince of Wales Colliery was a coal mine that operated for over 130 years in Pontefract, West Yorkshire, England. It was permanently closed in 2002 after geological problems were found to make accessing remaining coal reserves unprofitable, and most of the site was later converted for housing. After Prince of Wales Pit, I worked at Charleston. 1984, all us miner came out on strike. The miners' strike of 1984 to 1985 was a major industrial action within the British coal industry in an attempt to prevent colliery closures. It was led by Arthur Scargill of the National Union of Mine Workers, NUM, against the National Coal Board, NCB, a government agency. Opposition to the strike was led by the Conservative government of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who wanted to reduce the power of the trade unions. The Conservatives was in power. Margaret Thatcher was their leader. What a despicable woman she was. She recruited a man called Ian McGregor, hell-bent on getting rid of us miners. We were on strike for a year, which felt like one of the hardest years of my life. I got £1 a day. That's if I went picketing. It was a struggle to get by. Every Friday I had to go to carry a bag of food, and try and make it last for the week, or I would have to go hungry. Other ways for getting food was the day soup kitchens. And thank God for all those lovely women that served there. They were angels. I have a picture of me on frontline marching through Wakefield, West Yorkshire, with a placard in my hands. As I recall, even with the hard time, there were good times as well that showed me if I could survive that, I could survive anything. Then I was caught picketing at Parkside Pit, and was arrested and locked up in Street Helens. That day there were a lot of people also there. I guess I was just one of the unlucky one that got taken. I was locked up from 6 AM to 7 PM and had to appear in court with other that got arrested at Parkside Pit.
And that's the real price they paid for coal. It was too high that they should die. That's the price of gold.
As I look back now, would I do it again? Yes, I would. I loved every minute being a miner. It was hard work, and dangerous. But we had our pros and cons, we had good friends, everybody pulled together in them days. Life was worth living. Thank you all for watching this film. It's dedicated to all those was miners and their families.